first of all, I will explain, as Karen mentioned, what a global grant is. Basically, a global grant is a very big project. It can be anywhere from 30,000. It has to be a minimum of 30,000 and a maximum of 400,000 that you can get from Rotary International. And the global grant that you're going to be hearing about today, it is a $92,485 global grant. One of the things that we can do with the funding is every district has what we call district designated funds. This is money that has been donated 3 years ago and is coming back to the district to be used for district grants and global grants. And if you use district designated funds for a global grant, you will get matched 80%, 80% by the World Fund if the grant is approved. So with that, that's just a brief overview of what a global grant is. They are very difficult to get approved. There is a lot of moving parts to it. Sustainability is one of the biggest issues. And with that, I'm going to start sharing slides for Jennifer and let Jennifer have the stage.
Thanks, Faron, and good morning to everybody. Many of you are familiar faces. I will tell you, if you can't notice by my voice, that I am suffering greatly from a terrible head cold. And some of you know, I had been in Uganda for several weeks recently, and I had planned to stay for several months on this trip to really get some of these projects going and mobilize our partners for other global grant projects that MGI is currently working on. Unfortunately, within 24 hours of being in Uganda, I contracted a parasitic infection and got quite ill and had to come back to the US 3 weeks ago. And then this week I've come down with this head cold. So I am ailing. So I don't know if you've seen my presentation before, you'll notice my energy level may be a bit different. So I apologize for that, but I am here and doing my best at this early hour. As Faron said, we are moving forward rapidly with this global grant application for this particular project called the Dignity Kits Project. And that's what I want to talk to you all about today. As Karen mentioned, I am a Rotary Peace Fellow. I studied at the Rotary Peace Center at Makerere University in Uganda. I graduated from that program in 2022. So I was the second cohort. So we were an early group going through that program, but it was a very interesting experience. And my research for my capstone project was focused on women who were at that time working in a brothel in a slum community that my Peace Fellow cohort had visited on a field visit. And as we walked through that community, it was a 4-hour on foot walking tour of this very high poverty, high conflict community. There were a group of women in this brothel who were willing to talk to us, and I had many questions for them. My professional background is in the anti-human trafficking field. I've spent over a decade working for the state government of Kansas. I leaded the anti-human trafficking program for the Kansas Attorney General's office for 10 years, and have also done consulting work across the continent of Africa on training law enforcement and investigators, prosecutors on best practices in human trafficking investigation, education, and outreach. So as I met this group of women and heard their stories of complete unsafety, even during the day when they were not in the brothel, when they moved in their community, men felt like they were entitled to their bodies and approached them and raped them on a regular basis. And so that started my interest in this group of women. I did my capstone project on them in this community. I learned a lot about their challenges. And we have a global grant that's just finishing up that really focused on gender-based violence prevention, which includes anti-trafficking strategies. This global grant project that I'm going to tell you about today is focused on menstrual hygiene. This issue is connected to human trafficking in several ways. These young women and girls who are in these very high poverty communities do not have the means to properly manage their menstruation, which makes them very vulnerable to sexual coercion, to early marriage, to sexual violence, and really importantly, to not attending school. On average, girls miss 45 days of school a year due to staying home and avoiding the stigma of menstruating in these school environments where they don't have pads and that kind of thing. So this is a little bit about me. You can go on, Faron, to the next slide. So this particular project is really important for the reasons I've just discussed. The host club is the Rotary Club of Kasangati in Kampala, which is the capital. And the international partner is Community Action Against Human Trafficking, which is the club that Patty is here to represent today and came out of our district in 5710. I'm originally from this district. 5710 sponsored my Rotary Peace Fellowship, so I'm very connected to Patty and Faron and everybody else here in Northeast Kansas. Next. So just a brief overview. I won't read this to you. I've already mentioned some of this, that these reusable sanitary pads are really based on best practices in all of the research, especially in Africa. Disposable pads are really not the way to go in these communities for various reasons, but the obvious one we can think about is the environmental impact. In these communities, the rubbish just lying around is extreme. And that's something that's really important not to contribute to, in addition to the cost of um, disposable pads are very high in these communities. So reusable pads have been proven to be the best strategy in these communities. Next. The project site for this global grant, we have two. And the reason why we chose two is because we want to affect both an urban area and a rural area in Uganda. The Mengo Kasenyi informal settlement is this slum community where I've been working now for several years with other global grant projects and this group of women. This particular slum community is huge. It's over 200,000 people. And many of these folks, are unemployed. Many of them come to this community because they've been displaced, either internally in Uganda or from other countries who have civil unrest. The other project site is Kasese, which is in Western Uganda. It's a rural site. It's one of the highest poverty districts in the country of Uganda. We're targeting 400 girls and young mothers and 800 community members. The cooperating organizations for this project are my organization, the Magenta Girls Initiative, and an organization called Boudoir, which is another NGO in Kasese who work with women who have disabilities. And that is another very vulnerable population in these low-income communities. Next. This is a picture of the informal settlement in Mengo and, just a general snapshot of what it looks like. Next. Kasese, as I mentioned, you can see it's right on the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. That is significant because, as many of you who follow international affairs probably know, there's been, unfortunately, an uptick in violence on the border with Uganda, and many Congolese refugees are flooding into Uganda again because of historical war there between regional factions. So it's right there on the border. It's near the Rwenzori Mountains, And it's an area with a lot of poverty and challenges. Next. So the specific activities of this global grant project, we're going to hire trainers in both locations to train 10 women in making these reusable pads. One of the exciting parts of this project to me is that some of our women from our first global grant were trained in the vocational skill of tailoring. And we hope to use some of these women who are already part of our first Rotary Global Grant to train other women in making these reusable pads. So to me, that's a through line that's very exciting to see among projects. We're also going to train trainers in how to make the pads. We're going to purchase equipment for this purpose. Other items to go in dignity kits, which would be things that girls and young women need so they can menstruate with dignity. Quarterly school and community sensitization meetings. These are really important because we need to talk about the issue of menstrual health management to reduce that stigma and make it something that's easy to talk about and not such a secret and not such a shame-inducing thing for these girls and women. And then, of course, there needs to be monitoring and evaluation and documentation. MGI will be doing the monitoring and evaluation of this project. We've done M&E for other global grant projects that we've been an implementing organization in. That's primarily my job that I can do both here from Kansas and also when I'm on the ground in Uganda. I try to spend several months a year over there, evaluating and monitoring projects and overseeing our staff on the ground. Next. So some of the outcomes we hope to achieve is, again, reducing that stigma that leads to the vulnerability of these girls and women to sexual coercion, trafficking, all kinds of things. Increase access to the quality of reusable pads, improve the practices, the menstrual health management, and then, of course, the health outcomes, really important. The stories that come out of these communities where girls don't have access to these reusable pads that are clean and sanitary are tragic. I've witnessed firsthand girls, new mothers, who are using things like banana leaves, discarded rags that were in the refuse piles to stop their bleeding because they don't want to be homebound. They want to be able to go out in their communities and do the chores, but also think about, how could they possibly think of attending school or some sort of public gathering. When I was there in March of this year, we had a young mother who had just given birth. She was 16 years old, and when I visited her it's her home, but it's really just a structure. It's not much of a home in the sense of the word that we think about. She was sitting down, but she was telling me how, she really can't move because she had just given birth, and every time she moves, she bleeds, and she had nothing. And it was just the sanitary conditions were just really difficult. Next. The sustainability piece that Faron mentioned is really important for any global grant. We hope that we can set up a situation where in a couple of years after this project is complete, we are able to sell the surplus of pads that are being made by the women and girls who've been trained to make them. And that will fund the continuation of this project. Anytime an NGO like MGI or Boudoir, the other NGO, are involved in these global grant projects, the goal is always for us to carry the project forward in the future. Of course, that takes funding. And so that's what we're hoping for this project, that will create a sustainable stream of funding that can keep the most important parts of this project moving forward, which will allow us to reach more women and girls. Next. I want to mention our crisis center in this Mango project location. It's really important. It was established as part of our first global grant. In this particular project, the role that we'll play, again, is coordination. And we have a social worker that staffs this crisis center every day, Monday through Friday. And we see almost 100 women a week that come through this crisis center asking for assistance for various reasons. But this crisis center will be the hub of coordinating the activities in the urban project location, but also working with the coordinator in the Kasese project location. So this will serve as sort of the hub of where things will be distributed, where people can meet to have meetings and conversations about the project. Next. Next.
Yep.
So this is the funding portion, and I'm going to let Faron explain this, where we are with funding. We've done a lot of fundraising over the last several months.
Yes, so this is where I come in, yeah, for the money piece of it. This is how you can be involved. We have, as you can see, several different clubs and districts that have become involved. When you see that number, when you see that type of DDF on that one column, that means that that money, if this grant is approved, will get matched by 80% by the World Fund. And you can see on the left the numbers that has come in so far. We are $6,236 in a funding gap here for this. You see the need, you see the sustainability piece of it. That's one of the things that attracted me to this global grant the most, is the fact that this is sustainable and can be and can affect the lives in Uganda for many years to come. And this is your chance to be a part of this. We do need a little bit more money, and anything that you can contribute to this would be very helpful. I do want to mention a couple of things that is really, really that I just love, is the fact that 5680, you see up here, the district 5680, that's our neighboring district in Kansas. And over the years, that district and our district 5710 have partnered on several different things. And human trafficking is one of the, anti-human trafficking, of course, is one of the ways that we have partnered in on several occasions. Another district that I wanted to point out is 3522. And Jennifer and Patty have heard this story several times, so they might be rolling their eyes when I start talking about it. But the several years ago, in 2020, as a matter of fact, December of 2020, on one of these meetings, just like this, I met somebody that was attending as a guest from Taipei. And she was on or still is on the Global Grants Committee for 3522. We had a couple of global grants that Patty had actually written that we needed funding for. We needed an international partner. And because of that meeting, I was connected with Sue, and now not only did they become our international partner, we have now partnered on, this will be the 9th global grant that we have partnered on with 3522. So having them involved is very special to us as well. And then just recently, and this is something that through Jennifer's contacts, we have connected with the Arlington Rotary Club and also with District 5790. That is that district where Arlington is. They have given us some funding as well. And so now we are at $6,236 left. And what I think would be really great is if this club could collaborate with us and be connected, because I think it would be great for the Community Action Against Human Trafficking Club in 5710 and this club in 5950 to be connected in more ways than just supporting a cause, but actually putting our heads together and having a concerted effort to try to help in an endeavor like this. And hopefully that would encourage us to partner on other projects that we would see fit to sponsor in the future.
Thank you, Faron. I think, that's a great overview of how these projects get funded. It takes a little bit from a lot of different people. And I am just so grateful for my 5710 partners and for the other clubs and districts that have partnered on this and some of the other projects that MGI has been involved in and is moving forward with other projects too. And we would love to have your clubs, anyone here today. Obviously, you all have a common interest in anti-trafficking and anti-sexual, excuse me, sexual exploitation projects. And this is a really good one to get started if you're interested. Are there other slides, Farron? There may be a few more. Or is it? Yeah. So I think there's just this one. The bottom line, that's how I'd like to end, is just, this initiative will directly address the challenges and allow girls to stay in school, to avoid some of these really risky situations, and to menstruate with dignity and peace, which is what we want for all girls and young women. So with that, I think Farron and I would stand for any questions you might have about the project. And we really appreciate you giving us this platform to share this exciting project with you all today. Thanks. I see Aaron's hand. Aaron, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm really interested more. I mean, of course, I'm interested in the project, and thank you very much, especially with your compromised health situation.
Thanks.
But I want to hear more, and I think Faron can do this both because he's the Rotarian and you are compromised, about how this grant works. I was just starting to write things down, and I want a map of the donors. I don't think people understand where some of these districts are in the US. Some of them are in Africa, I think. Faron, could you talk about, it says
Yes.
First I had to look up DDF, which I did and put in the chat, because if I don't know it, I think other people don't. And just, could you put that slide up again and talk about how that works? I would appreciate it, because we're just starting with a district grant. And now this is kind of my first look at a global grant.
Yes, and let's see here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So District 92, first of all, Aaron, to go through all of this, to kind of give you the map that we're talking about. So District 9213, that is Uganda. And Jennifer, is there another country involved in 9213 besides Uganda? I think there is. It's like Rwanda and
Tanzania.
Tanzania. Okay. So that's the home district for Kasangati, for the Kasangati Rotary Club, and Kasese it would be in that district as well. 5710, that is Northeast Kansas. That's the district that Jennifer and Patty and I all sit in right now. 5680 is almost the remainder of Kansas, so it's South and West Kansas. There's between 5710 and 5680, we represent 98 of 105 counties in the state of Kansas. So that gives you that idea there. Lawrence, Manhattan, Leawood, Topeka, they are all in 5710. And so, yeah, Topeka South, that's my home club. And then Milwaukee, now this is an interesting one. Milwaukee, the reason they're involved is simply because we have partnered with them on wash grants in Guatemala. And we've done this more than once. And so I approached them and said, hey, we've helped you on some wash grants. Why don't you help us on this grant? And they said, okay, yeah, why not? Because, when you reciprocate like this, sometimes you get more out of it. And that's what collaboration is all about. And that's why we're really hoping that this club will be a part of that. 6780, Jennifer, did you want to speak to them just a little bit?
Yeah, just really briefly, 6780 is the district in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I have a contact there who, quite frankly, is the global grants guru. among Rotarians, Jim Roxlow. I don't know if any of you know him. He's just amazing and has been an advisor to Peace Fellows on these global grant projects. They committed just $100 to be part of the project. So that's what that district represents.
And then, of course, after that, the District 3522, that is Taipei, Taiwan. And that's the person I was mentioning that I met on this on a meeting just like this one. And this will be the 9th global grant that they've partnered with us on. We've had several grants in Taiwan that we've helped with, and they've helped us with some global grants that actually came to 5710, which is a pretty cool thing when you think about it. Of course, the CAT Club, Community Action Against Human Trafficking Club, in 5710 has put some money in. And just recently, this just happened within the last month, we got confirmation from the Arlington Club and District 5790 that they would help us out.
In
And that was,
Texas. I don't think you mentioned that was Texas. Yeah.
yeah,
Near
Arlington,
Dallas.
Texas. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep, it's Arlington is a suburb of Dallas, Texas, for those of you who aren't familiar with that part of the world. And that was a contact that Jennifer had, getting us that money through Arlington and 5790. And so district designated funds, DDF. Aaron, you made a comment about what that is. And how that works is when you contribute to the annual fund share, and that's anybody, when you contribute to annual fund share, what happens is 3 years from now, you will get 47.5% of that money back coming to your district. And your district leaders are the ones who can determine how that money is spent. Now, a lot of districts, including mine and yours, sends half of that money to district grants. And district grants are going to be local grants in your communities, helping, buy books for a school or stocking a food pantry, cleaning up roads, whatever your community projects might be. We have one where we have shoes for deserving children, those sort of things. That's what district grants do. The other part of that, the district designated funds, can be used for several different things. It can be used for Polio Plus. It can be used for disaster grants if you wish. But the other thing that most districts use it for is for global grants. And and it's very powerful when you use that money for global grants, because that money, when you see that DDF number, that means if the grant is approved, you will get an 80% match from the World Fund. And guess whose money that is? It's still yours. That's the whole point, is that, I remember in a Zone Institute, someone mentioned that, if I am a financial advisor, by the way, but if you had a financial advisor that said, "Don't give me this amount of money, and in 3 years I'll give you half of it back." I mean, how long would you keep me employed, right? Obviously, that's not a good sales tactic at all. And the idea here is when you do global grants and district grants, you're not just getting half of it back, you're getting all of it back. And in fact, the amount of money that you can push by doing this can have an ROI that's way higher than what you donated. In fact, one of the points that I brought up in a recent training in 5710 is last Rotary year, we spent 80,000 on global grants, and that pushed over $1 million in money that was used to help people worldwide. Now that's return on investment. And that's what you can be doing with global grants. And that's why being involved in this is such a big deal. And